many times decide to start eating more healthily tomorrow.
Mhm.
I would say, even that is probably a mistake. Okay, you should start eating healthily now. Okay,
Mhm.
by the fact that you set your goal to start tomorrow, well, there is one problem, which is like that when we plan for our future self to do something, we often make some unrealistic plans. Okay, we often don't take into account what motivates us, what's exciting for us, which foods we like. And so, if you think about the healthy food that you are willing to eat today or the unhealthy food that you are planning to give up on today, you have a better chance than if you think about next week.
Welcome, Ayelet. It's great to be with you today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Joe.
Congratulations on the book, Get It Done. It is filled with just amazing and incredible wisdom on goal setting, on what happens when we approach goals, how do we get through goals, and there's just like a ton of tips and insight that I want to dive deep into today.
I am excited to talk about it. It, has been my life work to study motivation. So yeah.
One thing that kind of jumps off the page to me is, and I think that a lot of the audience can relate to and understand, is we all have goals of something in our life. We put those goals on paper, we get excited about them, we start the process of achieving those or trying to attain those goals by taking steps. But along the way, something happens, and many of us, including myself, we lose motivation. Wondering from your perspective, I know there's a lot of information in the book about this. What's like the key thing there to keep yourself motivated to achieve a goal that you set out to do that you know is going to be a benefit to your life?
Yeah, so the keys is basically the framework that I discovered as I was writing the book, and as it turned out, successful goals, the goals that we end up sticking with, are goals that we set right, that they are intrinsically motivating, meaning there is benefit from pursuing it, not just from achieving it. Like it feels good, it feels right to do the thing. They are the goals that we can clearly monitor progress toward. Okay, so we can look back, we can look ahead, we can say, this is what I've already done, this is what I still need to do. They are the goals that fit with everything else that is going on in our life. And many goals are being dropped because it just doesn't work for you anymore. It just doesn't work for you with your new job, but with a change to your family. And so everything needs to fit together. And finally, it's the goals that the people around us support, okay? That they either help us or they encourage us. Okay? They want us to be successful. It's really almost impossible to achieve anything if the people around you think that this is not a good idea. They are not supportive. Okay? They are not encouraging. And so the social aspect is I guess the last element in this four element recipe.
So would it be fair to say that the first goal, the first part of this is making sure you create a goal that makes sense within your life and your circumstances?
Yes, and it's often easier to set a goal that fits with your life than to make sure that it still fits with your life as your life changes, right? So we might, set a goal to exercise more, maybe to become a runner. Okay, and it might work at a certain age, at a certain place, at a certain situation with your family, and then you might have a child, or you are growing older, or that you move to a sunny place where you can always run outside to cold Chicago, and the winter is brutal. And then you need to adjust, okay? And then you need to see how your goal can change.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So when you are creating goals, one of the insights that I read, which I thought made a lot of sense, is you got to be careful not to pick a goal that's a means to an end.
Yeah.
So can you expand on that before I dive deeper into that?
Yes. So no, we don't like to pay for parking. Okay, we often go around the block a few times before we are willing to pay for the valet parking. We would hesitate to spend the same amount of money on just getting another drink at the restaurant when we are going there. We don't like to pay for shipping. We don't like to study for prerequisite classes if we are students. We're not excited about doing the thing that is a way, that is a means, that is something that you need to do in order to do the real thing, okay? The thing that you really set your mind to do. In an experiment that we ran a few years ago with Franklin Shaddy at UCLA, we found that when we asked students to bid on a book, they were on average placing higher bids than when we asked them to bid on a tote bag that contained the same book. Now, the tote bag was a better deal because the tote bag came with a book, but they were willing to pay less because no one likes to pay for the bag that will carry the book or gift wrapping. Now, this is just a small illustration of a bigger point, that when we set our goal thinking that our goal is to do something so that we can be eligible for something else, this is less motivating. Setting your goal in saving for a house is less motivating than setting your goal as getting a house. Okay, this is just one of many examples of where when you think about the positives, you are more motivated than when you think about the costs of getting there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to elaborate on that study, so there is an autographed book for sale, and that book, you allowed people to bid on that book, and then there was and then that the average bid or the highest bid was around $23, if I recall correctly, something around that. And then there is that same book was just placed in a bag. And so it was the same exact book, signed and everything, placed in a bag, but the value of that decreased by about 50% or 100%. I mean, it was substantially less. So,
yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, given that you gave the numbers, which I'm amazed that you remembered, the value of that tote bag deal was $11 less than the book alone, which is like funny because in economics terms, what that means is that the value of the tote bag was negative. It was a negative $11.
Right.
In other words, if you give people the tote bag, they are willing to pay $11 less.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And and that just proves the point that the kind of fluff around the end goal isn't as important. So then that brings me to kind of my next question then. How specific should you be? I know some examples you've given are about running a marathon. So if I wanted to run a marathon, is it not a good goal to say I just want to run Chicago Marathon, or should I say something like I want to run Chicago's marathon in less than 5 hours? Like how specific should you get?
Yes. So with regard to the target, there are two ways to understand specific, because there is the level of the goal. Like, do I want to be in a better shape versus do I want to run a marathon versus do I I want to exercise this morning. Okay, so they're like the levels of like how concrete versus abstract you want to be, where the answer is usually in the middle, that is as abstract as you can before it becomes completely disconnected from an activity that you might pursue. And then there is a question of how specific the target that you put on a goal should be. And no, the target is often a number. It's like the how much and how soon. The target is only there to motivate us. Okay. It's often, if you set your goal to run a marathon under 5 hours, or to like walk 10,000 steps a day, in terms of the benefits, it doesn't really matter whether you finish the marathon in like 4 hours and 30 minutes, or in 5 hours and 5 minutes, or if you walked 100 steps below the 10,000 goals or above. But in terms of the psychology of the person pursuing the goal, anything below that target, the how much and how soon, feels like a loss. And we are highly motivated to avoid these losses. And so like the targets have like this pulling force where you really want to get to this number. Okay, it's the reason why people sometimes walk around their bedroom at night to get to their step count. It's
I've been there before. I've done that.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Like we set a target and we really want to make it to that particular number. Marathon runners, and there is a lot of research on marathon runners, although most of us, me included, will never run a marathon. But nevertheless, like if you look at the distribution of marathon times, there are more people that are finishing marathon just below a round hour, so just below 4 hours than just above, or just below 5 hours than just above. And the reason is that they are highly motivated to get it below their target, okay, get it just right. They are sprinting the last mile.
You also stated that once you hit that mark, you're not really motivated to go much past it. And I could relate to that. That if I work out on a daily basis, and if I have to do a certain set of reps, I want to know what those are. Like I need a target. I can't just do as many as I can. Like I need to shoot for something. But once I get beyond that, I'm not as motivated to keep going. So I got to be careful to not make my goal very easy, but I also can't make it too hard where I feel discouraged as well.
Yes, Joe, and this is a very important point, because here's the thing, like we set these targets, we put these numbers in order to motivate ourselves. And ideally, they are not easy to achieve. Like I often think about it as setting a target that you have like 80% chance of achieving, or that you will achieve it 80% of the times that you try, 80% of the days. The issue with that is that you might get frustrated when you don't achieve the goal, or when you don't have a chance, when you don't achieve the target, again, not the goal, the target, and just give up. Okay, so if your daily exercise involves like a 1 hour of doing something, and on a certain day you don't have that hour, the risk is that you just say, well, that day is ruined. Okay, no point taking a stroll around the park because this day is ruined. And we need to have healthier relationship with our targets. It's okay not to meet your target. You should still be pursuing the goal. The target is just a tool. It's not really what you are trying to achieve.
So when I think about that, though, how do you find that balance? So let's give a realistic example. I'm going to run the London Marathon this year in October, and the last time I ran a marathon, my time was like 6 hours. But I know that this was many years ago. I know I could do better there. Do I look at like my current pace, what I think I could do, and just set a goal that's a little bit aggressive, or like what's that balance there? And as we think about really any goal in life, how do you make it not so hard to attain, but not make it easy as well?
You set it such that it's a little bit aggressive. Okay, it's hard. Okay, it's not something that you can do right now. you hope that you will do that. Okay, so you had 6 hours before. You hope maybe you can get to 5 hours. It might be ambitious for you. And if that doesn't work, then you forgive yourself and feel proud about what you achieved. Okay, and so it's really what research finds is that when we are about to do something that's difficult but not impossible, there is like this energization. Okay, like there is this like increase in excitement. You see it on some physiological measures, like increase in your pulse. You see it on psychological measures. People say that they are excited, but it needs to be difficult, not easy, not impossible. Okay, so when people were like preparing for an impossible task, one of the studies that come to my mind is a study where it's an old study where people were trying to get an electric shock. We don't do it anymore, but that was in the very old days, and if they know that they can very easily avoid it, they just need to move a toggle, then they're not excited. Okay, you don't see this energy coming up. If they know that it's impossible, then they just say, they're also not very nervous or excited. If there is something hard that they need to do, which if they like press this level very like hard, they can do it. This is when they are mostly energized. This is when they are prepared for the task. They are excited. So in our daily life, the trick is to set the target such that it will be hard, it will be exciting. We don't know if we can do that. And then if it doesn't work, we try again another day. Maybe we adjust the target and just have a healthy relationship with our goals. I think that's really the problem is when we give up because we didn't meet some target, and like that doesn't make sense. Giving the target was only a tool; it was never the goal itself.
That makes a lot of sense. So what I'm about to ask you now, I feel like it applies to a lot of people. Let's just say that you are feeling crummy, you're feeling overweight, you're eating poorly, you might be drinking, you're on a path to not having a healthy lifestyle. And in your mind, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go all out the rest of this week. Monday, I'm starting my goal. And you get this dopamine rush because you think about Monday and you're like, yeah, I can kind of do whatever I want for the next few days because Monday it's starting. Monday, my diet's starting. And Sunday, you're even excited. You're like, I'm gonna eat that last piece of pizza, knowing that tomorrow I'm gonna start anew. But then that Monday comes, you might get through Monday still feeling excited, but then Tuesday feels very difficult. I'm sure the audience can relate to this in some way. If it's not a diet, it's something else. One is, do you find that's pretty common? And then secondly, how do you get through that initial starting phase?
Yeah, this is definitely a familiar situation. We many times decide to start eating more healthily tomorrow. I would say, even that is probably a mistake. Okay, you should start eating healthily now. Okay, by the fact that you set your goal to start tomorrow, well, there is one problem, which is like when we plan for our future self to do something, we often make some unrealistic plans. Okay, we often don't take into account what motivates us, what's exciting for us, which foods we like. And so, if you think about the healthy food that you are willing to eat today or the unhealthy food that you are planning to give up on today, you have a better chance than if you think about next week. Okay. Research in psychology often refers to this as the empathy gap. And the idea that we don't have empathy to other people, including our future selves, as much as we have empathy for our current self. Okay, and so it's the reason why we might plan to drive too many hours when we are very awake in the morning and we don't realize that we'll get tired. It's the reason why we might not pack a warm coat when we are traveling somewhere cold in the middle of summer, okay? Because, I'm warm now, but I can't quite imagine that it's going to be cold there. And it's the reason that we often plan to eat food that we will not enjoy, you will not like when it's set in the future. Okay, so start now. Okay, like have your healthy goals starting now. Then the other problem with like this mindset of I'll start my diet tomorrow is that it ignores the fact that we eat food because we enjoy the taste of food. Okay, the idea about eating is getting pleasure in your life, and so your healthy food has to be tasty. Okay, and now we've done a lot of research on this health taste conflict and how in our modern culture we concluded that these are conflicting goals. They were not conflicting goals in history or in other cultures. This is just a mindset that we need to educate ourselves to get beyond that and find a healthy food that is tasty for us. Okay, understand that food is a pleasurable experience, and it's totally okay to eat a healthy food that you like. So, just plan your diet so that you enjoy it. Okay, like think about the
Yeah.
berries that you love and not the dry stick celeries, unless you love celery.
No, I love that, and I think that's gold. What you said about thinking about your future self and that empathy gap, because that's so true. Is like you're thinking about your future self as if it's going to be a different human than exists today, and you're like, hey, my future self on Monday is just going to be this different person that's motivated in a different way. And the reality is like, just don't eat that piece. Just if you're going to consume if you want pizza, eat maybe a piece and not the whole thing, right? like so get a taste of it, because that's the reality of your future self too. Like you're not just going to stop unliking something. Brings up my next question regarding do goals over don't goals. So can you explain the difference between a do goal and a don't goal?
Yeah, a do goal is an approach goal, is something that you want to achieve. A do not goal is an avoidance goal. It's something that you want to avoid. Do goals are usually more exciting, are better. You can persist with them over time. Back in the 90s, the psychologist Dan Wagner asked people not to think about white bears. Okay, now as soon as I ask you not to think about white bears, there is nothing you can think about other than a white bear, right? Like you can see that bear in front of you. And this is just a nice demonstration of why do not goals are often difficult. Like how do you know that you are successful at not thinking about your ex? Well, you ask yourself, am I thinking about my ex? And by that, you bring that thought to mind. How do you know that you are successful at quitting smoking? Okay, you ask yourself, like, have I been smoking? And now you are thinking about smoking. And like, do not goals have this tendency that they bring to mind the thing that you are trying to avoid, which makes it harder. The other problem with do not goals is that we often react. Okay, like we want to do something because we are not allowed to, even if we are the no, we are the person that said that we are not allowed to do that. So, for many people who go on a diet, like as soon as they tell themselves I should not eat something, it's exactly the thing that they want to eat. Okay, you mentioned that not eating pizza, like, and I loved your example of like eat a small portion of pizza, because if your goal is not to eat pizzas, then you really want to eat pizzas just because you set that goal. The advantage of do not goals, of avoidance goal, is that they seem urgent. Okay, so people respond more quickly. If I tell you that you should not eat something, you will probably conclude that you should not eat it starting from today. If I say that you should eat something, you realize that maybe that's something that would be nice to include in your diet this week or this month. Okay? You don't think that this food has to necessarily be part of your diet starting at this moment. So avoidance goals seem urgent, but less stamina. Okay, so they are good for something that you need to do like once. Okay, like getting a medical checkup, taking care of yourself. In a single instance, but it's not the way to go in the long run.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I'm sure people have relatives or even yourself, if you had a heart attack or heart condition, the doctors will say immediately, like, here's what you should avoid right away. And you should start a healthy diet, including these things. And to your point, you're gonna immediately stop
Yeah.
The things that the doctor is recommending. You're gonna start the other things, but you may not start them as fast, but you're gonna immediately stop the others. But that the things you stop can slowly, at least I've seen people, they slowly creep back into your life over time.
Exactly, because when a doctor tells you that you should avoid red meat, you immediately avoid red meat. But then a month later, it's really hard to do. And what the advice should have been is develop a new diet. Okay, develop new taste for foods that maybe you are unfamiliar with, that you don't know can be cooked in an amazing way. Develop this taste, find these cuisines, discover these dishes. The advice to just like take meat out of your diet, take salt out of your diet, it's just, it's miserable. Right? Like, okay, I can do it for a week, but then what?
Right.
So that's not what I would advise. And by the way, I'm vegetarian. So I took many items out of my menu, but it was part of adding new items that are delicious and exciting. I love eating. I enjoy food.
Yeah, I was going to say then, so how do you get over that? If you really know, let's just say you find out you have celiac disease and you should not eat gluten anymore, and you're just used to it, like given the example of pizza and bread and carbs and pasta and all the stuff that tastes so good to most people, how do you do that if you truly can't do it?
So here's the good news about our species. We are variety seekers. Okay, we are not panda bears that only eat bamboo shoots. Okay, we like
Yeah.
new cuisine. We are excited about a new restaurant with a new cuisine because we just like the variety. And so every time when you try to take something out of your menu, okay, you let's say no longer eat bread or gluten, which is hard. Okay, this is actually one of the hardest. I'm sure that there is a world of foods that you will discover that you don't know that exist, or that you don't know can be so delicious. It's just like getting out of the mindset that I am now going to make eating miserable into the mindset that food has to be exciting. So what is going to be exciting for me? Okay? What is the food that's going to make me enjoy dinner with the family? And I mentioned the family because beyond being just like a physiological pleasant experience, food is how we connect to other people. Okay, food in our history has been a mechanism of connecting people. Food traditions is like how social groups define themselves. Kosher food is meant to bring Jewish people together. Just as much as Indian food is how Indian people meet and enjoy each other. We found that this is research with Caitlin Woolley at Cornell, that people who eat the same food, they better communicate. They are faster to reach a negotiation agreement. They can better work as business partners. In another research with Caitlin, we found that people with food restrictions often report loneliness. Okay, so there is a correlation between having any food restriction. You mentioned gluten sensitivity, or any other restriction, and loneliness, and you can attribute that to the fact that they cannot share the meal, that they cannot eat with other people. And so food is a mechanism of social connection. We cannot just tell people, stop eating. We need to shift eating into healthy and tasty food.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Let's switch over to understanding intrinsic motivation, because I have a kind of a quick story and anecdote. When I was created a digital marketing company and a software company back in 2011, and one day I'm next to my wife, she's watching TV, and I'm on the computer, like learning how to code and program, and she turns to me and she goes, "Why are you always working?" And my first response is, "This is what I do for fun." Like, I was having a lot of fun doing it and learning and building something and pressing publish and pushing code to a server and seeing it come to life. And she was next to me watching TV and she was having fun. Really made me realize that this was my passion. Like, I was very intrinsically motivated by what I was doing, and I was lucky enough to build a career around it. And when I read about making sure that you look at intrinsic motivation and that's going to sustain long-term goals, it really resonated with me. So I didn't know if you had any reaction to that comment, or if you've seen that.
I love that story, Joe. I think that everyone that has a job that they love, okay, can resonate with your story when people ask you, like, why do you work? Like, it's already, like, you've already worked enough hours this week or this day. What's wrong with you? And you're thinking, well, like, there is nothing that I want to do more than this right now. I'm super excited about it. And then we have the people that can't get the work day to end fast enough, and they really need to find the job that is intrinsically motivating. They really need to increase their intrinsic motivation in what they do, because if you are stuck in a job, or any other activity that is not intrinsically motivating, it does feel like a torture. Okay, it is very hard. And so let's define intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the motivation that you have when you get the reward immediately. Like, doing the activity is the reward for doing the activity. Okay, that doing the activity feels right as you do it. And we often compare this to extrinsic motivation, which is the pursuit of delayed rewards. Okay, so they're doing something because it will pay off in the future. Okay, we often set goals because they will pay off in the future. Okay, because we are extrinsically motivated. Okay, no one sets their goal as eating more ice cream. Okay, we set a goal to eat healthier food because we think about long-term benefits. Okay, we set a goal to go to school and learn a new profession because we have the long-term goal of getting a job there. However, what predicts how much people persist on their goal is usually the intrinsic motivation more than the rewards by the end of the road. And one way to see that is with New Year's resolutions, that when we follow people over a year after they set a New Year resolution, those that persist are those that enjoy what they are doing. Okay, so even though no one is setting a New Year resolution because they are intrinsically motivated, the extent to which they are intrinsically motivated, the extent to that feels right, predicts whether they will still do it in March and June and then in November. We talked before about healthy food, the same thing. Like, people that eat healthily are the people that are intrinsically motivated to prepare and to enjoy food that is healthy. Extrinsic motivation is not a great predictor of following through.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really interesting because of the Great Resignation. You see a lot of people changing jobs and moving to different careers, and some of that is I think based on maybe burnout, but some of it is also based on compensation. So they're looking at higher salary immediately, thinking a job's going to be more satisfying to them. And then they end up leaving, and then they find out they regretted that decision later on because they don't have all of the other components that they had in their other job, like the personal enjoyment, the social interactions, the feeling that you're with people you really like. And it just wonder if you're seeing more of that recently, given the state of the economy.
Yes, the Great Resignation is fascinating because, in a way, we all had the opportunity to. Most of us had the opportunity to just step out of our life. Just get off the treadmill. Look at what you're doing. Do you want to continue doing that? And many people said, "Oh, not really. I'm not excited about this job. I don't want to go back to this office." And this is really interesting. And I'm kind of curious to see what people choose to do and whether they really make better choices because they had to go home and rethink their lives. I'm optimistic. I think that for many people, this is happening. They are choosing better jobs, jobs that better fit their interest, their skill set. And also what you mentioned, again, a lot of the intrinsic motivation is not necessarily from the job as much as from the context in which I'm doing my job. Okay, do I like my colleagues there? Okay, is this a fun place to go to? Does this feel friendly and nice? Okay, one of the ways to increase intrinsic motivation into both doing work and studying is by playing music. Okay, also exercising, of course,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many of us play music or listen to podcasts while we exercise. It's an external stimulus that we added to the activity, but now it's more pleasant and fun. And so hopefully people are going to find jobs that have this like social aspect that are more interesting, that better fit their interest. One thing to note is that intrinsic motivation, while it is the immediate rewards from pursuing something, often doesn't happen immediately. Okay, often you need some practice.
Mm.
You mentioned that you're preparing to run a marathon. When someone who hasn't been running for some time starts running, they don't enjoy it. Okay, it doesn't feel good. It feels painful. Okay, when
I still don't really enjoy it, and I've ran a
right,
couple.
so like
Yeah.
it's still like you need to learn to enjoy it. Okay, like studying something new, like you need to get into it. Like we did research with stand up and in improvisation, and we found that when people learn improvisation, they often feel embarrassed when they start. And in a way, if you are comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, if you embrace the discomfort as a temporary stage that you're going to go through, that you seek this discomfort as a sign that, okay, I'm doing something new that is really like I'm learning, then you have a better chance to get to the next phase where it feels right. You just enjoy doing improvisation.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, to kind of sum up what we've been talking about so far, is to, when you think about a goal, think about something that is going to potentially intrinsically motivate you, even though it could be difficult. Be fairly specific. Shoot for something that is a little bit hard to attain, but not impossible.
Yeah.
Right. And then really focus on do goals if you can versus don't goals. I think that's important. So it's, instead of saying like, oh, I'm not going to eat pizza, it's yeah, I may eat pizza, but I'm gonna eat a piece instead of a whole pizza today, and I'm gonna combine that with the salad, and that gets your mind around it. And if I'm wrong in any of this, please stop me. I know I'm going fast and paraphrasing a lot of great content. But then once we kind of start something, then so we have our goal, we're going after it, and I'll just give another example from my life. A few years back, I did this 75-day challenge. It was called 75 Hard, and it had 10 or so different components to it. Can't drink for 75 days. Have to have a healthy diet. Have to do two workouts a day. One has to be outside. Have to read 10 pages in a book a day, and there's a few other components as well. Drinking a gallon of water. And what happens is you start that. You see an end in sight because it's 75 days. And in 75 days, like, is one of these tricky things that it sounds easy, but then when you start doing it, you're like, 75 days is a pretty far way out. So you started, you get going, and I finished it, accomplishing all of those things, but along the way it became difficult, especially in day 50. And we alluded to this, the kind of middles of the goals you're trying to attain. But what are some things that people can do that are on the path, that are dedicated, that are doing things that may not fall into the perfect way of creating goals? They're stopping a lot of things. They're not really thinking about their future self like in a realistic way, but they're on a good path, and you want to get through that 75 days. Give us some tips for
This
that.
is this is an ambitious goal, Joe. Most of us have less
Mm-hmm.
ambitious goals. Or I'd say most of us, our goals are just like one of the things that you put in this 75 days. Okay, maybe just read 10 pages a day, okay, or exercise daily. But nonetheless, we set our goal to do it for 75 days. Of course, 75 days is a target, right? Like you want to continue doing everything that's good for you after that, but you have this period. Now we see that as you make progress, you are more motivated. Okay? Like you're probably not going to quit this goal on day 74. Okay, no one will. Okay, it's like
Mm-hmm.
in loyalty programs, and no one is quitting the program when they're just like one purchase away from their reward. Students don't quit school when they're like one class away from graduation. So with progress, there is a greater motivation. But how we monitor progress matters, okay? And at the beginning, up to the midpoint, it's better to look back and see what you have accomplished. After the midpoint, it's better to look ahead and see what's still missing. So let's make it 70 days because it's easier. Up until day 35, it's better to look back and say, well, I did 1 day, I did 2 days, I already did a week, I already did like 2 weeks. After this a bit over a month, look ahead and say, well, I still have like that many weeks or that many days until I complete it. Why is that? What's going on is that at the beginning of the goal, the effect of 1 day of doing what you're supposed to do will appear larger if you compare it to what you've already done. Like, your first day, you did 100% of your progress. Your second day, you've now doubled your progress. Okay, so it feels like the second day did a lot. The third day, and again, added the third. If you look ahead and you say on the first day, I still have 75 days. On the second day, I still have 74 days and like 73 days. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like a drop in the bucket. It feels like your actions are meaningless. And you mentioned the middle problem. Part of what causes this decline in motivation in the middle is that your actions feel like they have so little impact. Okay, it's like I've been working on this project. Like I have work projects that are really long. Okay, they can easily take like a couple of years, and I feel like I've been doing this for a year. Probably still have another year of working on that. What I do today is like so little and has so little impact on the overall goal, and this is hard, and so we really direct our attention to what we have accomplished versus yet to accomplish, so that our actions never seem like a drop in the bucket, never seem meaningless, which is a huge risk for motivation when you just don't feel that you are moving the needle.
No, I can, I feel like that when I train for something often too. If it's a big feat, but it's the little things in life that actually do make up the biggest difference. It's those little steps that you take over time, and I think one of the things I've heard people say before is people overestimate what you can do in the short term and underestimate what you can do in the long term. I think that's very true with anything.
I like that. Yes.
And the other thing that I know you talk about is like breaking the goals down into smaller, simpler goals in a shorter time period. So maybe the 75 days, although that might be the long term, maybe you break that down into a week and or start there. And so for the people that feel like it's so overwhelming, they're not even going to start, say, I'm going to do this for 7.5 days. I'm going to do it for 10%, and I'm going to knock this out and see how I feel. Is that a smart way to approach things?
Yes, and the reason is that you are trying to avoid these long middles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so if you think about you want to exercise like in your life. Okay, you want to exercise your entire life. But, you need to break it into like, what is your weekly exercise goal? Okay, what is your daily exercise goal? If my weekly exercise goal is to, let's say, exercise 4 times this week, then there is less of a middle. Okay, between the first and the last day of the week. If I set it as an annual goal, then there is a very long middle. Saving, okay, it's better to set a monthly or an annual saving goal than a lifetime saving goals. Like saving for retirement is really hard because it's just like one long middle. Okay, like you start at some age and then you have so many years before you finish saving. Really long-term goals go against our human nature to care about the present. I wouldn't even say our animal nature, because we have it in common with all animals, that we care about short-term benefits. We care about what's happening right now, much more in the far future, which makes it a challenge to plan for the future. And so your short-term goals will help you with the middle problem. There is less of a middle, and also you can see this future, like it's not too far away. Okay, it's coming. It's around the corner.
So speaking of that, though, regardless of what you're doing, you need to build a little bit of patience, and I see that more and more
Yeah.
with the younger generation. Is that my kids who are 10 and 12, like they get instant dopamine effects anytime that they want it, right? And my son will be in the car and he'll want his iPad or he'll want a device. And I said, why don't you just daydream? Like, look out the window. Like, and it's like such a surreal concept to them. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to do that. So I think the patience is going to decline for results and satisfaction in life, just because of the nature of technology and the devices we're surrounded by. We can get any feeling that we want very quickly now. What are your thoughts on giving people advice to build patience for a goal that's going to really help them?
Yeah, I strongly encourage you to encourage your children to daydream, right? To just be there, to just wait for something. Patience is, it's difficult. Okay? It's hard to wait, but not only good things come to those who wait. So not only we need patience in order to get certain long-term rewards, also when we wait, we value what we are waiting for more. And every restaurant owner knows that Like you want people to wait a little bit for the food so that they enjoy it more. Okay? Like if I immediately give you what you ordered, if you didn't build the anticipation, you didn't wait for it, you are less excited having it. People who design lines, well, they don't want people to wait too much in line, but they want to have a line because they understand that when you are waiting for something, you think that it's better, okay? You enjoy it more. When you invest resources, and waiting is a resource, we like it more. And so amusement parks, they don't want you to just go there and immediately like get on the ride. They want you to wait a little bit so you're excited. You build anticipation. In our own lives, when we wait for something, we enjoy it more. When we make a plan to do something on the weekend and it's now Monday and we have a few days to wait, we will enjoy it more. And so you both get the better results because often the better things are for those who waited, and you enjoy it more than what you would have enjoyed if it would just like serve to you the moment you ask for it. And so, yes, we need to be patient. And yes, the world is not helping us with it. Technology is not helping us build patience.
On a side note, a bit off topic, it's like sometimes too, when you think about the future, it's often the vision or the feeling about the future. Like this weekend, I'm going to do X, whatever that is. That feeling of like the dopamine rush of thinking about that is often better than the reality of the thing that I'm going to do. Like vacation's a great example, right? You have this vision, like I'm going to go to Hawaii with the kids and we're going to have fun on the beach. And then the reality of it is you're in the airport, everything's very chaotic, trying to get the kids through. And then you're there and then, you know what I mean? Like things come up and I think that's important to realize too, is that you're to visualize your future self or to where you're going to be is often as powerful or more powerful than the reality of it.
Yeah, and I would say with this regard, I am not a fan of surprise vacations. Like surprise your kids with taking them to Disney World. I think that a big part of consuming these vacations is the months of anticipating and thinking about it and like daydreaming how it will feel like to be there and do that, and like the time that I'm in Paris or London and like how amazing that is going to be is part of the experience. So allow yourself to indulge in savoring these upcoming experiences. There are some studies that look at consumption of expensive wine, and when people buy an expensive bottle of wine, they don't want to drink it. They want to own it for a while. Okay, they want to have this image of the right moment, okay, when I'm finally going to open this expensive bottle. And a lot of the pleasure comes from imagining how it would feel on that day. Okay, I will, let's say, wait for your birthday that might be like in 3 months away, and have like this fantasizing of how wonderful it will be for the two of us to get together and open this special bottle of wine.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So would you say that that's really important as we start our journey on creating goals and getting ourselves motivated, is to visualize the future self, think about the SMART goals, making them attainable. That's all part of it, right?
Yes. Now, for goals where we need to exert effort, okay, just beware that thinking about the future is more in terms of planning and less in terms of fantasizing. So there is the risk when I say think about the future that you might, like Joe, you might like fantasize yourself running the marathon under 4 hours, and just having the fantasy. That's not going to get you into your gym shoes and out of the door.
Right.
Okay, it's having a plan to run the marathon that's going to get you there. So yes, think about the future. Think about the desired end state. more as planning, more as thinking how exactly I'm going to do that, less of fantasy. Like Gabrielle Oettingen at NYU has some nice studies of how, like, when people fantasize themselves having like the perfect body or getting the perfect job, that doesn't make them eat healthier food or apply for jobs. It's when they have a plan that they do what they need to do, but they think of the future in terms of planning.
So the last thing before we wrap I want to get to is the importance of having a social group or a partner to help you stay motivated, and what you found with regards to that. And quickly before you jump into that, I've found, and I've talked a lot on this podcast, that my wife and I work out daily together. We're fortunate enough to have a trainer that helps us, because we know our weak point is just being consistent and knocking the workout out early in the morning, because the day seems to get away. So we know that works for us, and we've been doing it for years now. It's been 5 years, and we've been consistently doing it together. And I can tell you that just knowing that she's getting up motivates me to get up, and probably vice versa at some points. And it's been a game changer. So when I talk to people that want to get healthier, want to start working out, one of the first things I say is, like, would your spouse do it, or can you find a partner that you can do that workout with? And wondering from your perspective, how key is that?
It is a key, and I love your story. I also exercise in the morning. Usually, my husband is also exercising there with me. In general, there are two ways in which other people are supporting our goals. First, they can help us. Okay, so like you might be take some project at work because you know that your partner is going to take care of the kids. Okay, so we might be saving together for something. So we're often doing things with other people. I might even say that, like, the big things that we achieve in life, usually we do it with other people, like starting a company or a family, or like doing something in society. But for our personal goals, we also need others, and we need others because we are social animals. We look at others and we look at what they value and we look at what they care for, and it influences us in ways that we cannot even imagine. Okay? If you were with other people who would think that, like, this morning exercise is foolish, great. It's like, well, Joe has like this weird thing, likes to exercise in the morning. That would have made it really hard. It's really hard to be the oddball, okay, the one that does something that people around you don't appreciate. When I ask my students, they're mostly MBA students, about the people around them, they almost always say, "Oh, my parents are so proud of me, and like they so much they want me to be successful." And this is not like your wife. Okay, the parents are usually not MBA students, or often not even like business people, but they want their kids to pursue this goal. Okay, they're people that are here as students know that their family wants them to do that. And just knowing that, it's a huge support, and it makes it really hard to do something when the people around you don't think that's good. One more thing that I will say about it, it often matters more what the people around you think about your goals than what they actually do. Okay, so even if your partner didn't exercise in the morning, okay, let's say that her routine was to exercise in the evenings, just the fact that she wants you to do that matters more than whether she does it herself.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense, and it feels also powerful to be in a community around like-minded people that have the kind of the same belief system that
Yeah.
for a healthier lifestyle.
And here's something where technology is actually very helpful, right? So we criticize technology for patience, but it's actually really helpful in getting people to find the people that will support their goals.
The folks that are listening to this, what's the best way for them to? We covered a lot, but out of everything that we covered, what do you think the few key takeaways are that they can listen to this and kind of get started today? Aside from reading your amazing book, Get It Done, which I highly recommend. We talked about a lot of the key points, but there's so much more. I mean, we just scratched the surface of things. So just curious your thoughts.
I covered a lot. You covered a lot. You asked so many great questions. So thank you for that. And if I had to suggest just one thing, I would say that you change your situation. So don't change your personality. Don't try. You will probably fail. Okay, change your situation. Okay, when you want to influence someone else, you change their situation. You nudge them. Okay, when you want to influence yourself, just change the things around you. Okay, like find the person who's supportive, find the healthy food that's tasty. Okay, set the alarm clock at the hour that you want to get up. You're probably already doing it. This is changing the situation. You don't tell yourself, oh, I'm going to be the person who wakes up at 6 a.m. You just put an alarm clock. And just it's really like think about behavioral change in terms of changing what's around you so that it is easier to stick with your goals.
Fantastic. Well, Ayelet, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. I'm going to link your book and the show notes in this podcast. I'll make sure I share it with you and your audience. But it was a pleasure to get to know you in person, and congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much. I hope that many people read Get It Done and stay in touch with me and go on my website, ayeletfishbach.com, and let's stay in touch. Good luck with your marathon.